My name is Sheila Karuna. Welcome to Sassy Seer Sheila. I'm not sure if I'm going to upload this over at New Light Streaming Love or not. I do recommend that if you like following me, you be subscribed in both places. As I really don't know, uh, from 1 minute to the next, what's going to happen. Um, so I've been doing a lot of recording of Jason Gray's work. And it's had a profound effect on me. And I've been asking all of you to share what it's evoking within you. How are you receiving it? Because apparently it's striking a chord with more than just me, right? Today is Friday, June the 13th. Oh, wow. I didn't realize it was Friday the 13th. Or is it Thursday or Friday? I think it is Friday. Oh my goodness, isn't it? Isn't that something? I don't know what day it is. Yes, it is. Um, the 13th. Indeed, it is, and it is Friday. Well, that's very interesting. Interesting, I chose today to do this on a whole lot of levels. There's a lot made of Friday the 13th. Well, it's a bad luck day, all of that sort of thing. And I don't necessarily feel that I buy into that. Things are whatever we make them out to be, in my view. This is Sheila's perspective on things. Um, and I like to keep it right here for me because at 63, I have the benefit of some pretty long held sight. I can turn and see things that I ascribed a particular thing to in my youth. And I see, sense, and feel them quite differently in these moments of now. Things I held as mistakes, things I held as my being a victim of. I no longer feel that way about. And because I've been asking you how Jason's work is evoking and what it's bringing up for you, several of you have asked to know what's happening with me. And after yesterday's recordings, I felt, and I haven't really sat long enough with those recordings just yet to really form any sort of opinion or feeling about them specifically. And I don't want to rush to feel things. Now, I did hear something from Jason because he has now seen the recordings, or at least when he reached out, I was already asleep. And he answered a few of the questions that I had. Consciousness existed before the I am, which I totally agree with. He said he's just starting to watch the videos. And he also said it was impossible to put into words. It has to be experienced. And I do know that that's true because try as I might to share my experiences from time to time, and I think this is true on every level for every being, because I used to think that because I can understand something, then you should be able to understand it too. And I no longer feel that way. Mostly because, again, of that 63 years of experience And what I now know has to do with our experiential filters. If one has never experienced something, one has no inkling of what it actually is. And words, I love what Lisa says about this. My housemate, Lisa Flamino Rush, who has had a huge impact on the way I now think. And you will get to hear from Lisa. It's just that she hasn't been well and she doesn't feel it's time to share yet, but she does know that that is coming. So, those of you who know Lisa and remember our conscious conversations from the past, please do know that she will be coming back to share just when she is feeling that it's time. Right now, she doesn't feel that it's time. And that's one of the largest things that I really feel to share is that each being, it is imperative that each of us develop our own discernment, that we no longer allow outside influences to honestly completely influence how we think and feel about things. Now, I have asked what it evokes within you, these things of Jason's that I'm sharing, because they are evoking things within me. It doesn't mean that I see it from the same perspective, that I hold it in the exact same way, because I don't. Not all of it, not at all. However, when I began this journey, and this is what I want to really be clear about and hone in for everyone, my journey of discovery of the who and what I am, because clearly we are more than meets the eye, more than what we've been told. At least it's clear for me anyway. um, and as it is a journey and not a destination, I've come across many beings who feel that they have the answer, and rightfully so, because they have experienced certain things. I've shared on this channel more than once that my experiences have served a lot of different ways to teach me that I absolutely can misinterpret my own guidance. I've told the story before and I'll tell it in this again. In 2018, my own guidance, 2017, I had just started Conscious Conversation Central. My own internal guidance told me that I would be going viral. That was my interpretation, that I would be going viral. Please note my last name is Karuna. That's my real last name, and it has been for more than 30 years now. My guidance wasn't wrong. I have not gone viral. However, fast forward to 2020, and there's not a person on this planet that can't tell you that Karuna didn't go viral. Now, I know enough about me that it's very possible that the larger portion of me set that whole thing up so that I could actually see, sense, and feel that, oh, hey, you do get guidance and you do have to march confidently in the direction of said guidance. But understand, understand that the little programmed, conditioned, controlled personality ego might misinterpret that guidance. At least that's what's happened for me. And I'm not saying that's happening in all cases out there with all channelers and all folks who get downloads of information. However, I now, since I've experienced that for myself, I now hold everything very loosely because I have been shown in more than one occasion on my own guidance and others' guidance that as these downloads and this guidance comes into the vessel, the being who is, no matter how great we think we've done our healings or whatever, we have been wounded and traumatized. Now, in going over this dialogue in my head as I was preparing to do this video, which really is no more than me having conversations with me, I wanted to argue back and forth. Well, wait a minute. You do agree with Jason that we are not broken. And he is right. We are not broken. We have, however, been fractured. As we came into these vessels and as the programming and conditioning was going on, and for me, I see very clearly, I have seen very clearly my own distortions, my own programming and conditioning, and how it affects me, how the ego personality of Sheila, who peers out behind these eyes, who tries to run the show always, has been traumatized, wounded, fractured, splintered, all kinds of things, right? As I am clearly seeing that for myself and moving towards the resolution, resolving those issues for myself, I want to keep in mind that anything I get could be being perceived through my perception filters, my experiential filters, which are there for me. You know, if somebody says that they don't have one and they've kicked their ego to the curb, hey, good on you. I'm glad for you. I don't know how to do that fully yet. I'm not saying it can't be done, because maybe it can. But I haven't figured out exactly how to do that yet for myself. And that's what this is all about for me, is my journey and my figuring things out, because I've watched what happens when folks follow something willy-nilly and just go into it full on, believing everything, even though there may be things that don't sit right with them. And quite frankly, the whole idea of NPCs and soulless beings has never, I've heard this before, it has never sit right with me. I'm not saying it's not true, because it could be. I don't know. But my gut at this moment is that even if it is true, I'll not be treating folks as though it were. I've seen and felt actually what that looks like when folks look down on others, and instead of seeing a wounded, traumatized being, just classify them as soulless and NPC. All manner of heinous things have been known to be said and happen behind the treatment like that of others. So for me at this moment, and I'm not saying that it couldn't be proven wrong. I mean, you know, that I couldn't be proven wrong, because, hey, been wrong before, will be wrong again. But what I do know for me is at this moment where the others, now, again, that is a valid way of looking at it. That is one perspective to hold. It's just not the one I hold. Now, the thing about this too for me is that early on in my swimming in the circles of spirituality and truther circles, because been hanging out in these circles since about 2009. I started in the truther conspiracy theory circles and sort of went over into the spirituality from there. And one of the things that I also notice, right, is that, again, folks think they have the answers for everything. Oh, I just heard from Jason. He said the videos were great. I was a little concerned. Always just be you. Oh, Jason. I cannot tell you what a relief that is, because I adore Jason. And I was a little concerned that he would be upset, because I will tell you, this is not my first time at the rodeo, and of having, he said, it's interesting for me to see and listen to your commentary. He's sending me private messages. It's not my first time having this sort of thing happen, where someone has presented an idea and I'm following right along and I'm shucking and jiving with exactly what they're saying, and it's affecting me. And then there's something that doesn't sit right. And it, for whatever reason, it just doesn't sit right. He said those codes are completely 100% unedited downloads. I get that. And I cannot, as what I just said to you in this, obviously he's hearing me on a different level because this is not live. I'm just recording it. Funny that you should be texting me right now, because I am recording, and you will see this in a video later that I even hit my microphone and I'm recording this, and it's also going on the video. So the point I wanted to make here is that this has happened before with beings, and they sort of dropped me and also kind of poo-pooed anything I might have to say, and we just kind of parted ways after that, because in most cases, folks aren't able to see that not everybody agrees on everything, that it's okay to agree to disagree, or to see things from a different perspective. The very fact that this young man asks me to always be me, that's points in his favor in my book. I don't know if this will help you better understand, but always keep in your mind the word consciousness when referring to the flame and fire. Oh, well, see, that's just it. I have been, but I'm going to tell him at the same time I'm telling you. I have been keeping that in the forefront of my mind, because I equate the flame to consciousness. I also, however, equate consciousness to divinity. And for me, it is the divinity that animates the vehicle quietly, unobtrusively, animates the vehicle, allowing the programmed portion of the personality to make the choices in this free will universe. And if the choice to wake up to the truth of the divinity within isn't chosen, the divinity, it's okay. The divinity is eternal, and it will simply wait until the next go round. That's my take on the situation, which is why I feel that there are no NPCs or soulless beings, because I'm not quite clear how things become animated without that soul. Now, again, I could be proven incorrectly at some other time. At this moment, my guidance is that. And I have promised to always go with my guidance. So let me go ahead and send this to Jason so he has what I've said here. And he said, don't speak the word consciousness, think it. I mean, if you wish, of course, speak it. The codes also are to be visualized. He said, I know it's a lot. And I know how it all F's greatly with the pre-installed programming. Well, absolutely. And this for me, again, is one of the reasons why I so want him to come and have a conversation with me on camera. And trust me, I know that you guys do too, because you're now asking for that as well. The thing of it is, for me, that's the beauty of keeping a completely open mind, allowing things to land. As I said, this happened before, and when I was first going into the foray of facilitating a chat group before Conscious Conversation Central, I was influenced quite a bit reading and taking in information about consciousness by David Wilcock. And a lot of the group that I was involved with at that time were like, oh, he's co-opted. I wouldn't buy anything he's selling, that sort of thing. And I thought, wow, if that was the case, I wouldn't be where I am. Now, the thing of it is that, again, I didn't agree with everything he was talking about either. But some of and this is why I say there are many translators on the planet. Because in my view, all of us are on a journey. All of us get truth and good information. None of us have the full 100% truth of what is happening here. Part of that is because it's been hidden. Part of that is because it's been so muddled and distracted and dressed up to look like this and that and the other, which is why the best thing anybody could do is to develop their own discernment by holding things very lightly, by allowing things to inform the vessel, to sit with things, to feel into them. And if anything I hear causes me to have an emotional, triggering reaction, then I have to sit with it even longer and ask myself questions in the silence, in meditation, in just my everyday thoughts, right? And I will be shown the answers that I can trust. And if I cannot, it doesn't mean I dismiss. And even if I'm, again, with this whole thing about soulless beings, right? I'm very well aware that my treatment early on in my life of being excluded as other, as not worthy of talking to, could be influencing the way I feel about this. I'm very well aware of that. And that is exactly why I have to sit with it for a little while. But see, now I've been doing what I term shadow work for quite some time, and I'm aware of these things. And I allow things to inform me. And there are some things that immediately feel true, immediately wash over me. And this is a lot of what Jason's work has done for me. So he said, because the pre-installed script sees and hears the original codes and goes crazy trying to make sure you do not overwrite them with source code, if that makes any sense. You are not doing any of this by accident or fluke, and neither am I. That I know is true, Jason. Next time you go out into the public, think about all of this and study the humans in your presence, especially focusing on their actions and eyes. You'll eventually see it. Black eyes. I am just a messenger. Well, it could very well be. He could be right. I'm not, and I will do that. So far in my experiences, however, now, let me just preface this by saying I have had experiences with very abusive beings. They didn't have black eyes, but they were very abusive. I could see their eyes change color when they went from one thing to the next, which really is more like a passenger joining them. I've had that experience quite a bit. But that doesn't make them, in my view, soulless. That makes them vulnerable and open portals that are then used by what may be considered as other. Alcohol does that to some people, most people, to be honest with you. That's why they call it spirits, in my view. But hey, that's just me. Any kind of wound or trauma, actually, that takes over a being, to me, lets down the ability to keep that sort of entity or passenger away. At any rate, my point here is, and I'm so grateful that Jason actually feels the way he does, because just like I was explaining to some of those other beings, not everything someone says is going to resonate with you. That does not mean that they are not speaking truth. It does not mean that I want to throw out everything that person has ever said because they're co-opted or whatever the case may be. Because all of us are on a journey. All of us have been subjected to programming and conditioning. All of us are guessing. Even when we get guidance, at least again for me, this has been my experience. Guidance comes through the experiential filters that you've had over the course of your lifetime. I'm 63. So I have, let's see, if I started waking up in 2009, what would that have made me? I don't even know. Girl math. I'm sorry. I know that's a bit of a sexist thing to say, but let's see. In 2009, I was born in 61. I was 48. So even then, as I started waking up, that doesn't mean that my experiential filter was clear of all the programming, right? So from 48 to 63, I have different experiences, but they are still loaded with programming and conditioning. Even in the new age spiritual community, there's a lot of programming and conditioning. And so for me, keeping everything open, right? Allowing the information into my field. How does it feel? What am I gleaning from it? Because not all of it is so. And I take it in, I allow it, and I let things leave that don't feel right. Doesn't mean that they are horrific or whatever, and or that they aren't true. I don't know. I really don't know. And for me, that's the best place to be. Because what I have noticed over, especially these last 7, 8 years, when there's a hard edged, ingrained belief that something is true, even in the face of, well, aren't you making some assumptions to make that a belief? Yes. Okay, just have to point that out. I know for me, almost everything we've learned in this realm is assumption, even the science. Because, the word science doesn't mean it's one and done. It's an ongoing thing where you make a hypothesis. You set about to prove said hypothesis. You gather the data and you move on accordingly. But it doesn't mean that that's all the data. And I think that's where we get trapped up, where we get tripped up, right? And that is, for me, where all of this is, regardless of who is saying it, whether even my own guidance. I have to remain open. I have to see how I feel about it. Now, on to how this is affecting me, because I have been having some very interesting experiences, especially yesterday. Okay. And he's telling me that eventually there will be a book published. And he said it's kind of starting to be in the works. Well, of course, he said you probably already suspected that or seen it. Yes, I did. I knew that was coming. It has to be because there's too much. He's shared with me because he's been very prolific. There's no way I could ever keep up with him. And because I'm only uh, recording what in the moment that I see the title, I know if I'm supposed to record it or not. Oh, thank you. He said you're an absolutely amazing lady. Sheila. Don't even think you truly realize how much. Oh, ah, that's so very sweet. That's so very sweet. I hope you don't mind, but I've been reading your messages out loud in this video that I'm recording right now. And that's very sweet of you to say. So you'll see all of this on camera later. Um, that's very sweet of him to say. And it really, I'm just being me. And that's what he's reacting to, right? And the only thing I can share with you about any of this is that for me, once I saw that I had a lot of wrong ideas on board, I've heard many things in your commentaries, especially yesterday, about some of the abuses we take in the human form. Oh, yes, sirree, Bob. Let me just tell you something about that. I know I have been a very abused, traumatized human being. So that's why I also feel the way I do about we are not broken. Yes, the consciousness, the divinity within, it's not broken. It's not at all broken, but it also has borne witness to the tragedy that has befallen every single one of us, bar none, including those that you might call the elite, the powerful, the controllers, the evil beings on the planet, including them, no one escaped. It's been different for each. Oh, yes, very different. All of that by design, of course. Absolutely. I've come to feel at this juncture, and again, I hold this very openly, mostly because of all the puzzle pieces I've collected over my 63 years, that we choose to whom we are going to be born. I always felt that. I was told that by a psychic, that my child chose me as parent, that he tried to come in once before, but that he wanted to experience being male. And when he came in, he was female. What that woman could never have known, because I never shared it with anyone, was I lost a child. And I always, always, always thought it was female. So when I got that information, I was like shocked and floored. And then later, my son, who had grown up all his life saying he wasn't going to have children, all of a sudden in his late 30s, as his girlfriend was pregnant, came to me and I said, I'm confused. I thought you said you weren't going to have children. And he said, Mom, a little girl came to me in a dream and asked me to be her dad. Then I met my housemate, Lisa. You see, when you collect puzzle pieces, when you're just open to information allowing itself to present to you, for me, I know, I feel with all of me that all of creation is endeavoring to communicate with me. It's just whether or not I have the presence to take it in and to remember it. He said, I've experienced them all as well. I have personally stood with and as the broken, downtrodden, addicted, homeless, abused, berated, etc., etc. Yes, I know you have, my love. I'm sure you have. I could feel that. Personally, that is where our flame is developed through those tests and trials. That is where our true compassion for humanity comes from. No one is above or below us. I feel that's true too. Everyone and everything deserves love, compassion, and respect until proven otherwise. Yes. Thank you, Jason. I feel the same way. It's just that I guess because I had been privy to some others in groups where the idea of NPCs means that they're different. And again, because I'd been treated as other, something to be excluded or, held in derision. Oh, wow. He's showing me that Tim McGraw, Humble and Kind, is on the radio. Wow. He's at work. He's driving to work. I will. He's telling me to try to listen to this song. So I will. I just shared that in my video. So I guess he said it came on as he was messaging me. Yeah. Wow. You see what I mean about how the whole universe endeavors to communicate. It's just whether or not we're open to receiving those messages, whether we catch them in the moment when they show up. And I guess I'm going to end this here because this has been 42 minutes now and I didn't mean for it to be this long, but there you have it. My thoughts and feelings I probably will at some point, because I did ask the very first person that asked me, and maybe I'll just do a panel. If there are more than one being out there who has been affected and effected by Jason's messages, who is willing to come and have a conscious conversation with me in regards to your experiences, please reach out, Conscious Conversation Central at gmail.com. Let's get together in Zoom. Let's chat about it. Please know that, as far as I'm concerned, this is the way I look at everything. If you are drawn to me, if you are drawn to this channel, there is a reason. I don't know what it is. You don't know what it is. None of us knows what it is. Isn't it fun to get together and try to figure it out? Because I'm convinced that the answer will be presented. I do know that we are all translators for each other. We activate each other in varying different ways. And we create these reciprocal, I got this from Lisa, my housemate. There is something that happens when you are drawn to another being. There is a reason. Sometimes it's to work out something that you need to work out. Sometimes they have something for you. What it is, who knows? Codes, uh, you know, whatever. I'm beginning to think that there is some degree of setting stuff up before we come here to, hey, if I don't have this going on by this time, will you please show up? Because and that's where by following our nudges to do something, that's what that does in varying ways. So if you are feeling something is being invoked within you from these messages, and you wouldn't mind to be on camera to share them with me and everybody else, your experiences, because I had yesterday, before, I'm going to be very clear, before I recorded them, as I've said before, when I am nudged to record and share something, I know I have to read it. Now, at first, I thought that I was being lazy. I'm going to read it, so why read it out loud to myself? Why just read it to myself when I'm going to read it out loud on camera, right? Once or twice, while not anywhere near my laptop, I've been nudged to read something, and I knew immediately when reading it that I had to record it. But so far, all of Jason's work, with the exception of maybe two, which I read to Lisa while she was in the hospital, because that's when I found Jason, was while Lisa was in the hospital, and I was spending a lot of time on my phone. And I happened to see his work, right? And that's when I knew I had to reach out to him and see if I could record his work. And so, but everything since then has all been all at one time. So, like I said, I've had some very interesting, especially yesterday and last night, and I'll save those for when we get together, because again, I'm not quite sure what it is that I'm being led to here, and I need to sit with it and allow it to permeate and allow myself to feel into it and see what it is. Because, first impressions might work for everyone else, but I'm being guided to sit with some things, right? So Until we meet again, I hope that you will move towards that which draws you, move towards that which brings you joy in each moment that presents itself to you. It is a matter of your perspective and your perception of your perspective. And until that time, be well, my friends.